President Trump is making good on his promise to dismantle the failing Department of Education, slashing bureaucracy, cutting wasteful spending, and returning power to states, parents, and local communities. The administration is wiping out DEI grants, shrinking the federal payroll, and moving some major responsibilities out of Washington after decades of skyrocketing costs and failing student performance. Joining us now is Rachel O'Brien, Deputy Public Policy Editor at openthebooks.com, with a closer look at where taxpayers are finally seeing accountability. Good morning to you. You know, when you look at these numbers, how aggressive have these staff and payroll cuts actually been?
Good morning, Jen. Yeah, so during the Biden administration, they spent about $560 million a year on salaries in the education department. That was for over 4,200 people. And so the department did shrink last year by about 1/3. They spent $391 million on 2,670 staffers. So it's 1,500 fewer people. It's about a 36% cut.
And the administration not just cutting staff, right? They're going after years of government waste. So what spending cuts really jumped out to you?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, these DEI grants that soared under Biden between fiscal year 21 and 24, those grants cost taxpayers between $144 million, $174 million every year. So Trump did take an aggressive anti-DEI stance. We did see some of that spending continue. So $62 million last year, a significant decrease. And then we see, contracts have been about $2.5 billion a year. A lot of it, over half of it, goes to student loan servicing. And so the Trump administration has said that the education department is not a bank and is spinning off this service to the Treasury. So we should see that money going to the Treasury Department. That's just one of several departments that the Education Department has initiated these partnerships with. The Departments of Labor, Interior, State, Health and Human Services, they're going to have services move from education into them. And so those are major functions that will be relocated. In terms of more cuts, things like spending on hotels, that was almost $800,000 in fiscal year 24. That jumped down to about $1,000 last year. PR agencies, they had gotten over $17 million between fiscal year 21 and 24 last year. They were actually able to claw back money, $6,800 from PR agencies. Marketing consultation, that was almost $20 million between 21 and 24. Again, that was clawed. We got $186,000 clawed back in those services. So those sorts of services are cut completely.
And as with everything, there is still more spending year to year in other areas. What's driving those increases?
Yeah, so we did see an increase. It went from $92 billion to $96 billion between 24 and 25, right? This is largely due to an increase in Pell Grants. So Pell Grants sort of exploded. The FAFSA Simplification Act of 2021 that baked in new Pell Grant spending. Just as we're trying to cut back on spending, this is ramping up. So it made it easier to apply for Pell Grants. This is for low-income college students. So applications increased by 150%. So there are more applications, plus the amounts that were awarded increased. So you have more spending there. The One Big Beautiful Bill did provide $10.5 billion in funding boost to this program to cover this expansion. So that's going to have to be something, if Congress wants to repeal Pell's authorization, they can do that. The Trump administration has not tried to move that to another agency so far. And the department has said that aid sources would remain largely unchanged. So the grants that go to local state agencies, you get special education funding to states, federal work study program, things like that. Those aid sources will continue, and the numbers do bear it out. We do see that those funding for those programs did remain steady last year from the year before.
All right. Deputy Public Policy Editor at openthebooks.com, Rachel O'Brien. Happy Friday. Have a great weekend. Thanks for joining us.
Happy Friday, Jan. Thanks.